Donald Trump said that he will decertify Iranian compliance to the nuclear deal, and so I want to read you some of his quotes to break down what he said. Donald Trump, by example, said that Iran is cheating on the deal when he said that Iran is not allowing the IAEA inspector from the United Nations from verifying the nuclear military site of Iran. But the problem is that first, that is true that Iran is against inspecting their military site, but you have to have a reason for visiting the site. Trump is using that as a shield because he wants to pull out of the deal. He doesn't have proof. He doesn't have reason to visit a military site. Like, you can't visit a military site in Iran just because you want. No, you have to have reason. They don't have suspecting military site. There is a false accusation that they use against Iran for getting out of the deal. Donald Trump not only he talk about the Iranian nuclear issue, he also talk about the Iranian action in the region, the support for terrorism, the way that they deal with the internal problem. So I'm going to read you one of his quote. The regime remain the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism and provide assistance to Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, Hezbollah, Hamas, and other networks. So that is not true. That is not true for Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. The Taliban hates the Shia, and Iran is a Shia majority nation. The Taliban they want Sharia law in in Afghanistan. They don't really have anything to do with Iran. Iran is they have really bad relationship with Iran and the Taliban. By example, at one point the Taliban executed some Iranian diplomat in the 90s, and so Iran was really angry, and they was on the verge of putting ground troops, but the situation was resolved. They also does not provide assistance to Al-Qaeda. They, as I said, Al-Qaeda is Sunni. I'm not saying that Iran is never helping Sunni militant group, but the Sunni group that Iran is helping, like you have to be like Hamas. You have to want the destruction of Israel. Iran say that they will support any group that wants the destruction of Israel. But yes, Iran is supporting Hezbollah and Hamas, that is true. Hamas' goal is to destroy the state of Israel and doing the bidding of Iran in the region. And Hamas' goal is to destroy the state of Israel also, but that's not gonna happen because they don't have a strong military, and Gaza is have a humanitarian problem, and they have a blockade. Donald Trump also said that, quote, "It is under continuous review and our participation can be cancelled by me as president at any time." So after his speech, he said that he will give the Congress the choice to remove the deal, to reinstate sanction against Iran, nuclear sanction. So that's bad. But Donald Trump on the campaign trail, he has said that he wanted to pull out of the deal. So the deal was made in 2015 with the Obama administration, and the moderate in Iran wanted to make this deal because they wanted to improve the life of the citizen, because the international sanctions have a really important impact in the Iranian economy, and so they have made this deal, and the deal work. The IAEA inspector have certified that Iran is abiding by the deal. And also, like James Mattis, the Secretary of Defense, have said that before Trump's speech, that staying in the deal was a national security. And also, Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, is also in support of the deal. And the deal is great because Iran is stopping their nuclear enrichment program to not acquiring nuclear weapon. Like for at least 10 years, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. We have this deal, and we have solved the issue with diplomacy. And like the other thing that the other option, if it wasn't a diplomatic option, it was to go to war against Iran. Like they will have to strike Iranian nuclear site, and a lot of them are underground. And if you attack Iran nuclear site, you could do 1 strike, 100 strike. If you attack Iranian land, they will fight back. Like that's not like that's a small military operation. No, you're going to start a major war in the Middle East, and most countries in the Middle East will be implicated, like Israel and Saudi Arabia will be the only country I think that will support this. But Donald Trump's reason for pulling out of the deal have nothing to do for the reason that what he said. Like he said that Iran is cheating on the deal. That is not true. That is the United States that's cheating on the deal. By example, when Donald Trump make his first speech overseas, he went to Saudi Arabia and he called for the other country in the world to stop doing business with Iran. So by doing that, he's cheating on the deal, because you can't say that that's a violation of the deal. We also have Congress under President Obama that renew sanction. We have new sanction against Iran and Russia that was passed by the Congress under Trump, and it also violates the deal because in the term of the deal you have to stop sanctioning Iran. But the loophole, what the politicians say in America, what they say is we're not sanctioning Iran on the nuclear issue. No, we're sanctioning Iran on other issue for their support of terrorism and human rights violation. It have nothing to do with the Iranian nuclear problem. So therefore we are not violating the deal. But by adding new sanction, you are violating the deal. So what is going to happen now that Trump said that he wants to decertify the deal? Well, tomorrow, Sunday, 15 October, well, Trump will say to Congress that Iran is not abiding by the deal, and then Congress will have 60 days to reimpose or not the sanction on Iran. We still don't know if the sanction will be reimposed, but I think that's likely. And also Trump said that he wants Congress to ameliorate the deal, but he also said that if Congress doesn't ameliorate the deal, he will pull out of the deal. So that's bad, because no matter what, the deal is gone, and so Iran will very likely restart their nuclear program, and then we will have the same issue that we have under President Obama. The problem is that do we allow Iran to develop a nuclear bomb, or do we stop Iran with a military action? We also have a third option that basically nobody in America is talking about, that is not doing anything. I mean, if there are nuclear weapons, they are not going to attack the Israel or the US troops in the Middle East. If they have a nuclear weapon, I think they will use that to protect their territory. Because, by example, when the United States invade Iraq and Afghanistan, Iran they feel threatened by the United States because they have US troops on their border from both sides. So they feel that that they're the next on the list, that they're going to be invaded by the US. So yeah, if they ever have a nuclear weapon, they're not going to use directly. No, unless you attack Iran, then they will use their nuclear weapon as self-defense. So why Trump decertified the deal? Well, first I would say that is because of pressure from the Israeli government and the Saudi government that always been against the deal since the beginning. I would say that the Israeli government is much much more against the deal than Saudi Arabia. The problem is that for Israel, Iranian, the Iranian influence in the Middle East is growing. The Iranian influence is in Iraq. We have Shia militia in Syria, and also in Lebanon. We also, for Saudi Arabia, they have Shia militia in Yemen. So Israel and Saudi Arabia feel threatened by the Iranian influence in the Middle East. So they wanted for the US to pull out of the deal, because they want the US to take military action against Iran. Because Israel and Saudi Arabia, they know that they can defeat the Iranian on the ground without the US. So they want to have the US involved to defeat the Iranian. They want to be the one that is really the major force in the Middle East. And Israel think that if the Iranian government collapses, then Hezbollah, the Shia terror militia in Lebanon, will collapse. Which is true, they will collapse because they won't have money and weapons from the Iranian government. And also in Syria, the Assad government will collapse because they are mostly surviving only because of the Iranian help, because they send advisor and weapon and money, and they also train the Syrian army. They are mostly responsible for the Assad survival in Syria. And so yes, for Israel that's good and also bad, because if Assad and Hezbollah collapse, then first we will have what if we have a more hawkish government in Syria? Like I think that if we have like Jaish al-Islam or Ahrar al-Sham in the Syrian government in Damascus, then I don't think we will have different relationship between Israel and Syria. And if Hezbollah collapse in Lebanon, then I think we will have a civil war in Lebanon like we already have from 1975 to 1990. And because you will have a power vacuum in Lebanon, and how are we gonna fill the power vacuum? Probably by a civil war, I think. So let's assume that tomorrow Donald Trump decertify the Iran nuclear deal, and 60 days later the Congress reimpose Iranian nuclear sanction. What's gonna happen? Well, as I've said, the Iranian will restart their nuclear program, and then the US will have to stop the Iranian, and they will say in the US like nothing is off the table, every option is on the table, but the problem is that there's only a military option. I mean, we try a diplomatic option and it worked, but the Trump administration pulled out of the deal. So if the option is not diplomacy, then what is this? Like, I think the Trump administration will start a war with Iran, and that is also very, very stupid from pulling out of the deal, because by doing that, Donald Trump is empowering, is helping the hardliner in Iran. By example, when President Hassan Rouhani ran in 2013 to be president, he campaigned on this Iran deal because he wanted to lift the sanction on Iran. He also wanted to improve the right for the woman in Iran, and is also better on the freedom of speech. Like, he don't think someone should be locked up for having different opinions, so he's more moderate than the hardliner in Iran. And also, if Donald Trump have problem with moderate in Iran, what is going to happen when hardliner will be president? Like, what is going to happen when Iran will have a Ahmadinejad type the president? Because this guy was really bad. Like, every week he was saying that the destruction of Israel is soon. He was a very bad president. During his term as president, Ahmadinejad did not have a nuclear deal with the United States. That's only because we have Hassan Rouhani, and he was able to successfully convince Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, to accept the deal, because he was against the deal. Ali Khamenei, he's a hardliner and he wants war with the United States. Because if let's assume Iran and the United States and Israel have a war, well, then the hardliner in Iran, they will be able to turn a blind eye on the issue, on the problem that they have in Iran. Like, in Iran, they have a high unemployment. They also have a lot of corruption. Women don't have as much right as the men. They have tremendous problem. So I think they will welcome a war with Israel and the United States. And I want to read you one of his final quotes. So, history has shown that the longer we ignore a threat, the more dangerous that threat becomes, Trump said in a remark from the diplomatic reception room at the White House. That's from Politico. And he also said, quote, "We will not continue down." And finally, I want to read you one of Donald Trump's last quote. So, history has shown that the longer we ignore a threat, the more dangerous that threat becomes, Trump said in a remark from the diplomatic reception room at the White House. So that is from Politico. And also he said, quote, "We will not continue down a path whose predictable conclusion is more violence, more terror, and the very real threat of Iran nuclear breakout." So, that is completely not true. First, the first thing that he said, he said that Iran is becoming a bigger threat, but that is not true. Like, by example, did you know Donald Trump increased drone strike by 432%, and also 90% of the drone strike under Obama have hit the wrong target? You don't think that there is a clear escalation and that is going to kill a massive number of civilians? You don't think there is more violence coming from the United States? You don't think about that, by example? Like, he's attacking Iran, the same thing that he is responsible of doing. he also said that Iran is doing quote more terror, but that is not true. I'm not saying that the Iranian government is good, because they're not, but what they're doing overseas, like they're fighting terrorism. They're on the front line against ISIS in Iraq and Syria with the Syrian government. Again, say what you want about the Iranian government, but they're fighting ISIS. Meanwhile, the US have attacked the Syrian troops in Deir ez-Zor, and yes, so the US have attacked the Syrian troops in Deir ez-Zor in September 2016, and so that killed between 90 and 106 Syrian army soldiers. And do you know what's gonna happen? What did happen after? Well, the Deir ez-Zor city, ISIS took more land in Deir ez-Zor. They was able to split the city. So doesn't that make the US helping ISIS? I mean, after the US attacked the Syrian army, ISIS was able to take more territory. You don't think that's helping ISIS, isn't it? And also, I love the fact that they criticize the violence coming from Iran, but do you know what happened in Donald Trump's first military raid? 30 civilians was killed, including an 8-year-old girl, and she was from the United States. She was an 8-year-old American girl. Like the hypocrisy coming from Donald Trump. The hypocrisy. And also, we don't really know what's going to happen once Trump pull out of the deal, because the United States is not the only country that are in the deal. We also have Russia, China, France, and yes, we have that is called the P5+1, because we also have the European Union. And this deal, like, it takes years to have this deal, and only because Hassan Rouhani was elected in 2013 that we could have this deal. And Trump want to change some term of the deal, but the Iranian government already said that they won't accept any change in the Iran deal. So there is only this deal, or we will have a war with Iran. But if I was the president of the United States, I would do nothing, because they're not going to use those nuclear weapons against the US. That would be very very stupid. But I don't think they're. Like, you can say a lot about the Iranian government, but on foreign policy, they are a rational actor, I would say. You know, except for his support of terrorism, but like, they're not going to attack another country unless this country have attacked him. Like, by example, Saddam have attacked Iran, and so Iran and Iraq was at war, but that wasn't the Iranian government that started the war. They would not fire the first shot. So I think if we had a war with Iran, which is more likely because Trump pulled out of the Iran deal, it will be the United States that attacks the first. Because, as I've said, Iran is never attacking first. And also, isn't this irony that the United States is saying to Iran, well, if you have nuclear weapon, well, you are obviously a threat to Israel and our ally, and we cannot permit this. That is so weird, because the United States is the first country to ever use a nuclear weapon. That doesn't make any sense. Like, the United States should be the last country to give a lesson to Iran for its nuclear program. And as I've said, they're not going to directly launch attack against Israel or US ally in the Middle East with their nuclear weapon. They're just not. That is not true. They're lying when they say that. If Iran have nuclear weapon, then they will have nuclear weapon. That's it. They're not preparing a war with those weapons. That's just not gonna happen. They're gonna use those nuclear weapons to protect them from, by example, Israel, because they say Israel and the US say that they should attack Iran for stopping them from having nuclear weapon. But if they attack Iran, then Iran will say, well, now we have to get nuclear weapon to protect us from the US and Israel, and you're giving them a reason to have a nuclear weapon. That is so stupid. Like you're doing the opposite of what you want to achieve. You want to stop Iran from having nuclear weapon. But if you're attacking them, you are going to give a reason to Iran to having nuclear weapon. That is so stupid. That's why we should not have a war with Iran, alright? We should just doing nothing. Like, if Iran have nuclear weapon, they have nuclear weapon. That's it. That's it. They are not a bigger threat. They are not going to launch a war. Just they want to have nuclear weapon. That's from protecting their territory. That's it.